Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network CREPN Radio. Thanks for joining us. My name is J. Darren Gross. This is the podcast focused on commercial real estate investment and risk management strategies. Weekly, we have conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide their experience and insight to help you grow your real estate portfolio. Today, my guest is Mike Ciorrocco. Mike is the CEO of People Building, Inc. He is a performance coach, author, dynamic public speaker, visionary, and thought leader. He has been featured by Yahoo Finance as one of the top business leaders to follow in 2020 and is on a mission to build people. At his core, he's obsessed with success and helping others achieve greatness. C-Roc is a guy who had a fire lit in him at an early age. That fire has led him to inspire others to see greatness inside themselves using past life events to fuel their fire. And in just a minute, we're going to speak with Mike about how you can turn setbacks into rocket fuel. But first, a quick reminder, if you like our show, CREPN Radio, there are a couple things you can do to help. You can like, share, and subscribe. And as always, we would love to hear from you. Please consider leaving a comment. Also, if you'd like to see how handsome our guests are, be sure to check out our YouTube channel, and you can find us on YouTube at Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. And while you're there, please subscribe. With that, I want to welcome my guest, Mike. Welcome to CREPN Radio.
Darren, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. Anytime I have the opportunity to share my story and my content with others' audiences, man, I'm honored, and I just want to express gratitude for you to you for having me here.
No, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to our talk. Hey, before we get rolling here, if you could take just a second and share with the listeners a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I run a mortgage division for a large company called Nations Lending. It's throughout the 50 states, mortgage lending. We have 40 employees, and I get to work with three of my best friends I grew up with since I was 10 years old. We all went to high school, college, and now we get to work together. And my younger brother, Casey, is one of our sales managers as well. So when I wake up in the morning, despite thanking my creator for being alive and being able to impact people every single day, I also am very thankful for the opportunity that I have to come and work with such a great team, along with some best friends and my brother. So we've been doing the mortgages since 2006, and we had our own company as far as our own division since 2011. So for the last 9 years, we've been learning, growing, without much guidance, without much mentorship, kind of figuring out things on our own and understanding that, we had a lot of setbacks, just like anybody in business that you're going on. You could have the best guidance, mentorship, or what have you, and still finding out that we need help and not being afraid to ask for help, being able to go to somebody and be vulnerable. And so we've learned that in the last 9 years. And now we're actually seeing finally exponential growth over the last 2 years. And we're finding things that work. And then we get so excited about it, we want to share it with people. So that's what I do. I also have a coaching business called People Building and the podcast called What Are You Made Of? And we're just firing on all cylinders. And, I just want to try to jam as much as I can in the number of years I have left on this planet to make the biggest impact that I possibly can.
Oh, that's awesome. I love the working with your buddies from 10 years of age. That's pretty cool. And was everybody like-minded, or who was the lead on getting into the mortgage business?
Well, there's one gentleman, Chris Short, one of my best friends. He got in first. I was in real estate, and two of us were in real estate as realtors, doing well. And another one was in banking, not necessarily mortgages. So Chris was in it first, so we all jumped in. And then as far as the building and scaling and all that, they're all on board, all like-minded, but I lead the charge with the inspiration and the culture building. And then they jump on and help, and they have their own strengths that we use them for. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And are all of you guys still located in the same area, or have you spread out?
No, so we're spread out. The cool thing about technology nowadays is we have seven, I think 6 or 7 branches. I can't even keep up anymore. But we have 40 employees spread out through Maryland, Delaware, and Miami, actually. So we use Zoom, we use Microsoft Teams a lot to interact with each other. Every day in the morning, we meet with the whole team for 15 minutes. And we do a lot of video calls rather than, we rarely use the phone anymore. It's mostly video calls. So we have that interpersonal communication and contact with that. So, but occasionally we'll be together at certain offices, just depending on the day. So.
No, that's awesome. It is kind of a funny thing to think how technology has shaped our world and brought us closer and accelerated it so through this whole COVID experience. I think the just like what we're doing right now, the video phone is kind of a ubiquitous experience and all the different platforms and all the challenges it brings. But it's all good.
Yeah, and Darren, the thing we talked about before we got online here is, COVID has put us in a situation where we can adapt more. And I just want to preface this because you may hear some noise in the background, and we're overcoming a challenge right now, you and I, that we had talked about. And I like to bring things. I'm a transparent kind of guy because any lesson that I can learn through everyday life, I like to bring it to people's attention so that they can benefit from it. And I have construction going on downstairs in my house, 2 levels below me. And we said to ourselves, do we want to do this or not? And I'm not in my podcast studio. I'm usually in a nice studio. And, in life, man, I learned a lot of things with this. And COVID has brought this to the forefront that you have to be able to adapt to things. You have to be able to use setbacks as fuel for yourself, not just fuel, but rocket fuel, which we'll get into later. But I just wanted to bring that up in case people hear a little bit of noises in the background. Nowadays, we're in the COVID environment. The COVID, things are, changing and happening out of our control right now. We just kind of have to adapt and make the best of it.
No, that's so true. I think it's really kind of opened up a whole new range of possibilities. I think a lot of the rigid kind of place to work and how work was to be done is getting exposed for for what it is. I think the reality is if there's work that needs to be done and people can do it, let's get it done, right?
I love that.
So.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. We can use all the excuses we want in the world for things not getting done. And that's a great example of COVID. A lot of people used COVID for an excuse not to be successful. And when it happened for our team in the mortgage industry, as soon as it started to happen, getting to acceptance and acknowledging the issue that was going on as fast as possible was key for me and my group. And we met with our team and said, hey guys, this is what's happening right now. Things are going to change. Don't know how bad it's going to get, but let's just shoot and think to ourselves that we're going to have to work absolutely the hardest we've ever worked in our lives. We're going to be the most wore out at the end of this. However, this is the reason. We're going to make it a reason why we're successful while everyone else makes excuses. And so 100%, man. I mean, I'm in a t-shirt right now. I work most of the time in a t-shirt. I wear a hat. I don't have hair. I wear a hat, but we're doing more business and we're more successful than we've ever been. And at the end of the day, like you said, it's about getting the job done.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your driving, your focus of taking a setback and turn it into rocket fuel. In the intro there, read a little bit about something early in life. You had something. Is there an episode that you can share with us that kind of made that crystallize?
Yeah. So I came from a broken home, Darren. I don't remember my parents together. And when I tell you this story, it's not because I'm trying to play a victim role. I use this as strictly as rocket fuel. And I'll explain to you why rocket fuel in a second. But, my parents never knew them together. Would do the every other weekend thing. Like a lot of your listeners may have dealt with the custody battles, the child support battles, all that jazz as a kid. Now, as a kid, I didn't know any different. I thought it was normal. And, then I moved with my dad from 8 to 11. And during that time, again, I didn't know this was not normal, but I dealt with a lot of emotional and psychological abuse. My parents had conflicts. The step parents had conflicts. And I was in this environment, entrenched in it, and felt like it was on me. It was my fault. And so I didn't think it was anything of it until one day I was coming home from my mom's house after a weekend at her house, and we would go over these hills in southeastern Pennsylvania, and my stomach would be in knots before I would go back to my dad's house. I would have anxiety. I just wasn't right, and I thought it was normal. I thought it was like, this is just the way it is. And my mom told me, she said, you know what, this isn't normal. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't feel this way. This is not normal. So at the end of the day, when I basically had that conversation with her, I opened up to her and said, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not happy. I'm being treated this way. She said, listen, I'm going to file court papers, and I'm going to, get you out of there if that's okay with you, if that's what you want. But if I do this, you need to stick to your guns. You need, no matter what, because they're going to try to talk you out of it. So one day I came home from school. My dad had court papers in his hand, and I knew darn right well what was in that envelope. And, he said, go back to your room. And I sat in my room for about 5 minutes, which felt like 5 hours. And he came in and he said, you know what's in this envelope? You really want to move back with your mom? They don't have it that great there. They don't have money like we do. Now, my dad was my hero. He had a masonry business. It's very successful. I looked up to him. He's a hard worker, pouring concrete, laying block. And at the end of the day, I looked up to him, and he always had this wad of $100 bills in his pocket with a rubber band around it. And that, for me as a kid, that was like cool. I just knew that we got trips, and we went to dinner a lot. We went places, and we had a nice house. And, when it all came down to it, though, that none of that stuff really mattered. And I became understanding of this. Now, when he said that, do you really want to leave here? I said, yeah. So he takes the wad of $100 bills out, peels one off, crumples it up, and throws it at me and says, well, you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day. Now imagine 11-year-old kid, his hero, basically throws in the towel like a trainer would throw in the towel on his boxer. That's the way I felt inside. But I'm very stubborn, Darren, and that could be a strength and a weakness. But I said to myself, I'm not going to let him win. I'm not going to need that money. And also, I thought this was an ordinary scenario. I thought that everybody's going through this. I can't be the only one going through this. There's somebody else out there that's been given up on, and they're going to need somebody to look up to see the experience where somebody rises from this situation. Now, I didn't have it that bad, I don't think, because there's people that had it worse than me. But at the end of the day, that's considered to me a setback, a letdown, somebody giving up on me. And so at that moment, I just decided that I was going to help other people by being a role model. I didn't know that I was going to be able to help people as far as coaching them or being an inspiration as far as a mentor or what have you. But I did know that I could be the best I could be at everything I tried, it got into: sports, work, school, what have you. So that's the moment. And I look back at this 30 some years ago, it's clear as day. That's the moment that I can point to that really understood what setbacks are for in our lives. And that, obviously, through my life, I've had many more as we progress forward. But the thing is that that's the one that the pivotal moment when I was a young kid. And what happens is that when you have a setback, a lot of people get thrown back. First, they don't acknowledge it right away. They don't accept it. They try to go through a denial phase. They go through a victim phase. Meanwhile, all this time is passing. They're not in the right frame of mind. They're wasting time, energy, productivity's lagging, family life might be lagging. And if they could just understand this one concept, to turn all setbacks, letdowns, negativity into rocket fuel for your future, your life will never be the same, because every time you come into one of these setbacks, matter of fact, you'll look for setbacks and problems. You get into these situations, you understand, man, this is a training session, or this is fuel for me. This is rocket fuel for me. And the reason I say rocket fuel is because I'm trying to get into orbit. And what I mean by that is there's suppressors in life. Bad things happen to good people. You can call that gravity. And when gravity's in action, it's trying to pull you back down. Well, I want to get to orbit where the gravitational pull is pretty much gone. And the only way to get into orbit is rocket fuel. So this is the things that go through my mind, and not a lot of people can relate to this. It might be too much for some people, but it works for me, and it works so well that I feel like I got to share it and coach people about it.
I love the story and how you did take that and kind of galvanize and you said you're stubborn. I'm sure that helped a little bit, that you didn't want to let it end there. But I'm curious, you mentioned a couple things that I'm familiar with, acknowledging what the issue is first. having some acceptance over that, and then kind of, some sort of a plan to move forward kind of thing. What do you find? Is there a daily routine? Because I think it's one thing to have an issue on one day, like a big event, whether it be, whatever it might be, but throughout our lives, throughout the days, there's always little things. And some we may just kind of deal with and move through, but just maintaining that high level, high energy, high positivity. We're going to get through this. We're going to get past this. This is not going to keep us back. What is it? I mean, are you a Red Bull guy? Are you drinking lots of coffee? What are you doing? What is it that keeps you, focused and driven? And tell us a little bit about do you have a routine, or how do you stay that fired up?
Well, first of all, yeah, I like coffee, but that's not, I don't drink it every single day. So I do like coffee, and I work out a lot. But really what it comes down to, Darren, is when you have a purpose that you believe in and you're so passionate about it and you're obsessed about it, really you don't burn out. The people burn out when they don't set big enough goals and targets for their life and don't have a big enough purpose. So I think people need to start, first of all, there, before I get into the routine thing. People need to start, first of all, by thinking about being in the desert somewhere, finding a lamp that has a genie in it, and rubbing that lamp. Genie comes out and gives you 3 to 5 things that you could have no matter what it is, not putting a limit on it. No, don't worry about it if you think it's impossible. What is it? And 95% of people don't know the answer to that question for themselves. So it's always starting right there. Because when you start there and you don't put any limitations on what you want in life, and then it's a really big, grand vision or goal, once you do that, things start to open up afterwards. And so that's where I start. And so when I have a goal, I have a goal to create a $500 million company. I say $500 million because that's where I'm going to start with people building and helping people build themselves and helping companies build their people. So that's a goal there. I have a goal right now. I'm writing a best-selling book. How do I know it's best-selling? Because I'm going to make it a best-selling book. I'm doing whatever it takes to make it a best-selling book and an impactful book. I have this in my head. I'm excited about it. I'm fired up about it. And so I'm just giving you some goals that I have right now. My mortgage group, we started out doing $4 million a month. We have a goal to go to $100 million a month. That's an unheard of amount of loan volume for a group our size. Now we're going to grow a little bit, but at the end of the day, we can do it with just adding a few people. And so that's a big goal that we have. And I continue to talk and preach that to my team. So they're constantly striving and not getting complacent and comfortable. Kryptonite for me is comfortability and complacency. So I'm constantly aware of that. And so that's what keeps my energy up, because I'm not going to settle and sit back and be okay with things happening to me and me giving control to something else and playing a victim. And I work out. So morning routine, man, I get up, I'm gratitude right away. Thankful that I open my eyes, thankful for my legs and feet, my hands, my ears, my mind, my voice, everything. It sounds corny, but I go through this list every morning because I'm thankful for it. And what it's done for me is it removes and eliminates and makes everything that I could complain about disappear. It's a magic trick, if you so to speak, but you got to be patient with it because it doesn't happen overnight. I'd recommend people do it for 30 days and then give me the feedback. Let me know how it works for you. I know it'll change your life. So I start with that. I start with the goals, writing goals down. I drink water every morning to stay hydrated. I read 10 pages every morning, and then I'm off to the gym, working out, hour workout at least. And then I have a team meeting with my team after that, get everybody's head straight and ready to go. And that's what fires me up. That's where I have energy. I don't get tired or burn out. I do, however, sleep very good. And I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day, because when I hit the pillow, I can't lay there and watch anything with my wife. I fall asleep right away.
No, that's awesome. So you explained kind of 2 things there. One is the importance of having a purpose. And you also explained your kind of routine in that. I want to ask you about team building. You have your own team that you're sound like you're the responsible party for kind of motivating and getting them, keeping them driven. It's one thing to motivate oneself. It's an entirely different thing to translate that and get others fired up and keep them focused and moving and have that energy in that. And I think there is something too that the positivity kind of feeds off of, the 5 people you're closest to that, you kind of
Yeah.
absorb what they're around. So I wonder if you can speak a little bit about how you go about motivating others.
Yeah. So you have to, first of all, share your vision and your big goal of your company with your team, your company, your employees. Once you share that with them, then you have to find out what their personal, professional, financial goals are. I learned that from a mentor of mine, Brandon Dawson. Where he got it, I don't know if he made it up or whatever. He created it, but I got it from him. I've done it in the past, but I didn't realize I was doing it, and that he made me aware of it and being more intentional about it. But getting with the team and having a one-on-one meeting with them and understanding where they want to go with their lives, very important, because you cannot hold people accountable if you don't know what they want out of life. And you got to make sure that it aligns with your company's vision and goals, because if it doesn't, and there's no alignment, you're going to have conflict, and then that can rupture the team. So that's number one. Number two is gratitude. Gratitude is very important. So we practice gratitude exercises once a week in our team. We have a sales meeting. We start the meeting with everybody going through one at a time, saying the name of a person the week before that did something above and beyond for them. That has changed our culture. We've been doing that for over a couple years now. Third is unlimited income potential. We create an environment for everyone to bring revenue into our company, even people that aren't salespeople. So when they bring revenue into the company, they're rewarded, but it obviously takes care of the company as well. And they can never complain about the money they're making to leadership unless we're not helping them sell or teaching them how to do something. So that eliminates any animosity. And then also we do we accountability, where we have a team that holds each other accountable. Rather than just the leadership down accountability, we have the team feeding off each other, and you get an actual lift, like a hot air balloon, when the team is holding each other accountable and lifting each other up, celebrating wins together, etc. So those are the things that we really focus on, and that has lifted our team, has gelled our team. It's a constant work in progress. It's not something that you put in place once and then you leave it. If you do that, you're just as good as not doing it at all. It's a constant work. I have to constantly talk to my leadership team about, hey guys, we need to speak the same language. We need to be constantly on this 100 million a month. We need to be constantly holding each other accountable. And it's hard work. It really is hard work to do. And it's persistence, and you just got to be relentless with it. But if you're committed to your goal and your purpose, then you will make it happen. And that's what we do.
Yeah, I guilty on having read something and been all fired up, and you head off for a couple of days or whatever, and then life starts happening, distractions kind of take over, and it can be a little bit of a challenge there. So in those instances, how, I mean, there's the personal side of the thing, but then also trying to keep the team motivated. Are you constantly taking the temperature of how the team is reacting, and then trying to point them in the right direction, or is that a daily assessment? How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So with that, first of all, we do training every single day. Our whole team is on what we call Cardone University. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or not. Grant Cardone is a mentor of mine. So we do Cardone University. Every day at 10 a.m., I get a report to see if everybody did their 4 videos that they're expected to do, based on sales training, motivational training, financial literacy, communication, et cetera, et cetera. By me doing that and getting that report, I can see who's engaged for the day. If they're not doing their videos, then I'll reach out to them and say, hey, everything okay? Anything I can help you with? So that's number one. Number two is every day of the week, my leadership team is assigned a day of the week that will reach out to each employee for 5 minutes and just touch base with them and see if they need anything, especially because we're not in the same building. It's important for us to make sure that we maintain a open door policy, so to speak, and also an engagement with our employees. So we do that every single day. There's 5 people on the leadership team. My day is Friday, and we just call around real quick, even if the people don't answer, and shoot them a message if they don't answer, and let them know that we were checking in on them to see if they need anything. So that's how we do it. And then we can gauge the temperature. When you're in an environment of we accountability, you'll get, like, if there's a problem with one of our employees, I'll hear about it from one of the other employees because they care. And they'll say, hey, listen, John was talking to me today and he's not real tickled about this, or he's having issues with this. Don't tell him I told you. Now, that's a trick in itself, because you got to figure a way around that without throwing that person under the bus. They're not tattling, they're just concerned with the team and they're concerned with that person. So then we just reach out nonchalant and say, hey, hey, I was just thinking about you. Everything all right? Anything I can help you with today? And you aim to attack things in a good way, not like aggressively, but attack things to assist people instead of running from problems. Like I'm always looking for challenges. I'm looking for problems. I want to solve things. Successful people do that, Darren. Unsuccessful people, what they'll do is they'll look, how can I get out of problems? Not solve them, but how can I avoid problems? How can I avoid challenges? I look for them and I want to solve them. And that has taken us to new heights.
I love that. Now, solving other people's problems or solving your problems. I mean, that's there's always a need for that. That's good stuff. So you work with your own team. Do you also then mentor or coach others?
Yes. So first of all, real estate agents are a source for us for business, but we don't like to just go to them and say, hey, you have anybody that needs to be pre-approved? And just ask for a take, right? We want to go to them and say, hey, listen, we know how to get business. We know how to teach you how to get business, how to make more money. Let's do that. Let's work together. Are you interested in making more money? Are you interested in making your business more stable? And then we go do that first. After that, then we ask for reciprocity. So that's the route we take. We invest in people first. We give. Of course, you're supposed to give without expecting return, and we do that. I mean, there's plenty of agents we help, and they don't send anything our way. But at the end of the day, if you do that, they end up giving you business back. And so we do that. And then also outside of the mortgage industry, I coach people from all walks of life coaching, leadership, communication, you name it. Anything that has to do with building people, I work with. I do one-on-one coaching. I have a group coaching that we do. And we're going to get into some workshops and some digital courses along with the book that I'm writing.
Awesome. Hey, Mike, if we could, I'd like to shift gears here for a second. By day, I'm an insurance broker, and I work with clients to assess risk and determine what to do with the risk. And there's typically there's three different strategies that we look to. The first is we ask, can we avoid the risk? And if that's not an option, then we look to see if we can minimize the risk. And when neither avoiding nor minimizing the risk are options, we look to see if we can transfer the risk. And that's what an insurance policy is. And I like to ask my guest if they can take a look at their situation, their work, their clients, their employees, however you want to frame it. But if you can identify what you consider to be the biggest risk. And again, for clarity, I'm not necessarily looking for an insurance-related answer. But with that, If you're willing, I'd like to ask you, Mike Ciorrocco, what is the biggest risk?
And by the way, my friends call me C-Roc, Darren, so you're more than welcome to call me C-Roc. But the biggest risk for me is I've been through business before where I relied on people. I relied on their production, and even if they didn't buy into the culture that we were trying to establish, I would just put up with it. And they're producing a little bit. And so the biggest risk for me nowadays is one, I don't ever want to have to do this, but I'm always thinking to myself, if I have to do something myself, I will. And I don't want to ever risk my independence and ability to go back to zero and build a team by allowing people that do not buy into our culture to stick around our team. So in other words, have you heard of the term being held over a barrel?
Oh, yeah.
So I've been in a situation before where I let that happen and things fell apart at the company that we were in because I let the culture slide and I was basically allowing production to rule the roost instead of people that are buying into the system that I know works. And so I was risking at that moment our whole group, our whole team, everything that we built based on production rather than attitude and buying into a culture. So right now, as far as the biggest risk for me, to me is, and it's constant, is I'm always looking at this. I deal with this right now. I have a few individuals in our company. I'm very open about it, that I'm not sure are going to last here, even though they're doing business, because they think that that's the most important thing rather than being in a part of the team and buying into what we expect. So it's very risky when you do this, because to me, you have to think to yourself, if I leave these people around, the risk is that other people are going to see their complacency, the fact that they're not bought in, and they're going to start to buy into the people always start to buy into the bad, the cancer. And that risk is always present. And I have to weigh that and balance it, whether it's worth keeping the production on and taking that risk that other people are going to see these people not buying in. So that's what I would answer that question with right now. And that's constantly on my mind.
No, that's really important, especially if you're trying to create a culture and maintain a culture. It just occurred to me as you were saying that. I'm kind of curious if you have any sense of this, but maybe you do, or maybe you don't. If you're looking around and you see, and I'd say probably small businesses, what percentage of businesses that you run into do you think have some sort of a culture that they're trying to maintain, as opposed to more of just or create and maintain, as opposed to just something that's kind of going through the motions?
Just from my experience, I'd have to take a guess, an educated guess,
Right,
but I would
right.
guess that 20% of companies, I think it's a large problem. I think 20%, and I might be too high there, have great cultures and are trying to maintain a great culture. And very few, most people start a business and they're just so hung up on trying to produce and bring revenue in and not focused on how to do that. And they just basically go through the motions every day and try to be in survival mode rather than trying to excel and be great. And that's the issue. And when you wake up in the morning, oh, I got to go to work, oh, I got to go deal with these employees. And again, remember I said that they're trying to get out of problems, get out of challenges rather than going and hammering them and attack them and solve them. I think that's a big problem. And that's why there's such a big need for what I do in people building. So very, very low, probably 20, maybe even under that there.
Yeah, I would concur. I'm unless you're some sort of a larger corporate structure that has levels of management, and there's people with certain roles to maintain morale, or however you want to phrase that. I would guess that it's fairly low. So, but and I appreciate you sharing just about the challenge of maintaining it, and actually maybe having to prune a few players rather than, like I said, be put over a barrel, because those are kind of those tough decisions. But I'm assuming, just like we've been talking all along, that making those tough decisions and solving those problems kind of gives you that fuel to go further when you go through that. So I
Yeah, a
appreciate
lot
that.
of times when you want to do more, you want to accomplish more. It's not about doing more. It's not about doing more work, adding things. It's about taking things away, removing
Right.
things out of your schedule, removing things out of your life, removing things. And then that allows you to maybe replace it with something more productive. And then you can accomplish more.
No, I love it. I love it. Hey, Mike, where can the listeners go if they would like to connect with you or learn more?
So first of all, my book's coming out at the end of this year. And if they go to themikeciorroc.com with no K, themikeciorroc.com, they can subscribe there, get a copy of the new book. It's called Rocket Fuel. Man, I'm excited to get this out to people, to share my story, how I've developed the culture, how I've gotten to where I am today, and also where I'm going. And if they go there, they can do that. And also on Instagram, I'm big on Instagram and LinkedIn as well. But Instagram is at Mikey Ciorroc, MikeyCroc, Mikey Ciorroc. And I like to engage with people a lot on Instagram.
Awesome. Mike, I can't say thanks enough for taking the time to talk. I've enjoyed it and learned a lot, and hope we can do it again soon.
I appreciate you, Darren. Thanks again, man. I appreciate you having me.
You bet. For our listeners, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, the more you know, the more you grow. That's all we've got this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.